I want to tell you what's been going on with me the last few months. I've gotten absolutely interested in the life of Abraham. It's why I did that video about Haran. I would never come up with something like that. Ever. Oops, I'm losing my thing. Unless I had been studying the area. And we know about Abraham. And the reason why I'm studying him, this is something I said a long time ago, is that Abraham is the most significant person in the Bible outside of Jesus. The most significant. Why? Because if you look at what happened in the Garden of Eden, we lost our lives in there. We were all inside of Adam and Eve when they did that, so we all got expelled. And God put tremendous curses on those people. First of all, he cursed the serpent, but not without a promise of his defeat, which is the gospel there. But with the woman and the man, cursed the woman's childbearing, and it would be painful now, and then the Adam, his work would be hard and frustrating and angering, and the ground would be cursed. It's got coming up with poisonous and impediment plants, and the grounds. And he ends up back in the ground. So those curses are outstanding right now to this very day, as we know. But when we come to chapter 12 of Genesis, opening up, there it says, and the Lord had said to Abraham, get away from your country, your kindred, and your father's house, and to go to a nation I will show you. I'll make of you a great nation. I will bless you, and I will make your name great, and you shall be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you. I will curse those who curse you. And in you, all the families of the earth shall be blessed. That's how we know Abraham. That's how he's introduced. But so as I got interested in him, and the reason why I got interested in him is because I was reading Galatians chapter 3. And I thought, so I started thinking about him. Because through Adam, we all die. But through Abraham, we all come back to life. Because of his seed, which is Jesus, right? Now, so as I was looking back, I thought, well, I'll go back and take a look at his history, and I want to show you, if you go at Genesis 11 there, Genesis 11, go down to verse 27. I'm sorry, 26. 26. So, pardon the genealogies, but I think you might find them useful after we take a look at it. Genesis 11, 26. And it says, Terah lived 70 years and became the father of Abram, Nahor, and Haran. 3 brothers came from Terah. Now these are the records of the generations of Terah. Terah became the father of Abram, Nahor, and Haran became the father of Lot. So now we know that Haran now we know why Lot is Abraham's nephew. There's 3 brothers here. But Haran died in the presence of his father, that is before his father died, in the land of his birth, or the Chaldees. So Haran's dead. We have 2 sons left, 2 brothers left. And Abram and Nahor took wives for themselves, and the name of Abram's wife was Sarai, and the name of Nahor's wife was Milcah, and the daughter of Haran, and the father of Milcah and Iscah. So Iscah is Milcah's sister, okay? And so you can see that Nahor married his niece, Milcah. Haran, the oldest boy, he died and left behind 3 children, Lot, Milcah, and Iscah, 2 girls and a boy. And the Uncle Nahor, married his niece Milcah. This is how it was back then. Look at what Abraham did. He married Sarah, his half-sister. So it's really keeping in the family very much, right? Sarah was barren. She had no child. And Terah took Abram his son, and Lot the son of Haran, his grandson, and Sarai, his daughter-in-law, his son Abram's wife, and they went out together from Ur the Chaldees to go to the land of Canaan, and they went as far as Haran, and they settled there. Now this has always confused me. And this is one reason why I was reading it. I never understood why God told him in chapter 12, you can see it next, he says, leave your country, your relatives, and your father's house. But we just read that the father took Abraham and his wife and Lot to go to Canaan. Why is Terah going to Canaan if Abraham's supposed to leave him? That used to puzzle me. In other words, he left the first two things, but not the third thing. Why is Terah going? And as I began to think about that, a little light bulb goes off. A little light bulb goes off because Terah must have gotten converted. Because his youngest son, Abraham, at the age of 70, has God appear to him and tells him to leave to go to Canaan, to leave everybody and go to Canaan. And he says, I'll make you a great nation, I will bless you and make your name great, and you shall be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, curse those who curse you, and in you all the families there shall be blessed. That's what God told Abraham when he was when they were the Chaldees. So he tells his father, he had to tell his father, you got to keep it a secret. What I whispered to you in the dark, proclaim from the housetops. So, Father, you're not going to believe it, but God appeared to me to tell me to leave here. Terah, who knows, I'm interpolating here, I'm making an assumption here, because I have to know why Terah is the one leading the family out of that place, and not Abraham. Abraham's the one with the vision, but Terah is the father, is the one leading. So he must have been the first convert. And I'll tell you, this makes sense to me because usually when somebody gets saved in a family, the first people that they end up influencing in any good way is their own family members. And so Abraham is starting out with this particular kind of feature. So I kind of warmed up to Terah. All of a sudden, this nobody in my mind, this dark and foggy person, is suddenly a real person. Now, I got to give you something. I'm going to give you something here. Oh, Dennis, come here. Dennis, come here. Again. Yeah, just pass these out. Don't you pass out, just pass them out.
Yeah. And not near me. Over there.
I thought this was useful. Now let's go. The first page there is the migration of Abraham out of Ur of the Chaldees. Now you'll see where Ur is. Go all the way over to the right at the bottom, where the line starts. Okay? That's in southern Iraq today. Okay, that's where that is. That's in southern Iraq. Now, in order for them to go to Canaan, they don't see how Canaan is like directly right across from Ur. Like if you draw a straight line from Ur to Canaan, like say Jerusalem, you're going to have maybe 500 miles there, right? 500-mile stretch but you can't go that way. That's all hostile desert and untraveled area. The lines you're looking at here are the old trade routes. So in order for them to be anywhere near safe traveling like they were, they would have to go with the trade routes where there are more likely a lot of protection, because you don't want to go to the wilderness and be swallowed up by bandits and animals and stuff. So you can see here that if you follow the dotted line is simply an alternate route that they might have taken. We're not told what they took. So they start traveling. Now Terah is in the lead. And you'll see how it follows the Euphrates River there. And then you go up to Padam Aram, which is up where, you see where Haran is? See, that's Haran. Okay, that's where they stopped. Now, one of the reasons why I think they stopped there is, look how old Terah is when he dies. He's 205 years old when he dies. He's now 200 years old. A 200-year-old man is probably tired of traveling. Because by the time they got from Ur to Haran, you're looking at about a 650-mile trip. They're exhausting. Not that they travel all in one day, but that's a big project. So Terah They all go with Terah to there. Since Abraham has a convert in his household, he doesn't leave his father's house yet. He has to wait, because why would he leave a convert? Okay. So, and then, if you go to your Bibles again, and let's finish up verse 32. And the days of Terah were 205 years, and Terah died in Haran. Now, Haran is still part of Mesopotamia. Actually, Haran's in like southern eastern Turkey, right above Syria. So it's way up. They overshot Canaan by quite a distance, but they can't go directly to Canaan. So Abraham lives with in Haran with his father for 5 years. Now, when you get to chapter 12, you continue reading your Bibles there. Now let's see. The third prophecy is now, or the third command is now fulfilled. Now the Lord had said to Abram, "Go forth from your country, which is Mesopotamia, here, and from your relatives, and from your father's house." Now he's at his father, so leave your father's house. So now he can't, because he's dead. "And to the land that I will show you, I will make of you a great nation," and so forth, right? Now, I want to tell you what happened with this story. Some people believe that God did not speak to Abraham until he was in Haran. That way he can leave all three, because Mesopotamia is still his country, kind of. It's all Mesopotamia. In other words, leave your country, your kindred, and your father's house. He can do that in Haran. He can do all three in Haran. So some people believe that he must have got told there and not back in Ur of the Chaldees. But let me prove to you that he was told in Ur of the Chaldees to go to Canaan. Go to Acts, book of Acts, chapter 7. This is the martyrdom of Stephen. This is his long speech. He gives a Sanhedrin before they stone him for, reading them the riot act, so to speak, out their national anti-God history, chapter 7. All right. Okay, go to verse 2. Well, we started with 1, might as well. Okay. So the high priest the Sanhedrin is interviewing or interrogating Stephen because he's been such a thorn in their flesh now for a while, like Paul. And he said, "Are these things so?" And he said that as Stephen said, "Hear me, brethren and fathers. The God of glory appeared to our father Abraham when he was in Mesopotamia and before he lived in Haran." See that? Before he lived in Haran. So it has to be down in Ur of the Chaldees. Now look what he says next, but look at the difference that he makes here. He is, "Depart from your country and your relatives, and I will come to the land I will show you." Why does he leave the father's house out? Stephen is quoting what God said to Abraham in Ur of the Chaldees. This is where details matter in the Bible. If you care about that sort of thing, it's not necessarily salvific, but it's going to be useful. Stephen's saying that God told him 2 things in Ur of the Chaldees. One is to leave your country and your kindred. But he doesn't mention the father's house here. So what's that all about? Let's go back to Genesis 12. So go back and forth to the Bible there, Genesis 12. Let's go back to the statement being made in verse 1. "Now the Lord had said to Abram, go forth from your country and your relatives and from your father's house." So here's what you can, I think, and conclude, is that when Terah died in Haran, that's when the Lord told him about his father's house. Because now you can leave your father's house because he's now dead. So to me, if you put them together, Stephen says God told him 2 things in Ur, but in Haran he must have said the 3rd thing. Now leave your father's house, now that he's dead. Because he didn't want to leave a convert, right? So now Abraham goes and leaves Haran. Remember that video I said Haran is the same name as his dead son? And because the name of the place that they went to, why would Terah go to Haran? Like, oh, why pick that spot of all the spots to pick? He's going to the place that's the same name as his dead son. So I just thought, well, it's like going to the dead. You know what that reminded me of? Because I didn't put it on the video, but I want to tell you what it was. I forgot to put on the video. Remember when David, when he had committed adultery with Bathsheba, and the son that was born to Bathsheba from David, in other words, when she came the time to deliver, she gave birth to a son, and the Lord struck the child, it says. And David lay on his face for 7 days, not eating or anything, and the servants were really concerned about that. They thought he was going crazy. And finally, they heard that the son died on the 7th day, or whatever it was. And they said, we can't tell David. And they're all talking amongst each other, and David goes over here. He says, did the child die? Because he figured out what they were talking about. He said, yes. And he gets up and he goes to eat. And they go, why are you eating? You're fasting in the morning when he was dying, and now he's dead. Now you go eat? Like, what's wrong with you? So he said, he's dead now. I will go to him, but he shall not return to me. Terah went to his son's place. He will go to Haran, but Haran will not return to him. And the similarities between the two statements. You go to the dead. We're all going to the dead. We can't help that. We will go to them, but they shall not return to me. But everybody ends up in Haran. That's what I was saying. Everybody goes to Haran. Everybody dies. You go to the place of the dead, which is what Terah did. So he spent his last few years of life in Haran, the name of his dead son. And he dies there and stays there. But once he had died, God tells Abraham to leave his father's house, which is in Haran. When they say, like when Abraham died, it says that he was gathered to his people. You ever hear that expression in the Bible? And they were gathered to his people. You wonder what that means exactly. Does it mean the body goes to where the communal graveyard for the family is? Well, maybe, but it means that the departed spirit is picked up and carried, as we're told in Luke 16. They're carried to the place where some of your people are, already waiting. You're being gathered to your people. Now, for the rich man in hell, he was gathered to his people, and his people were gathered to him, because they all arrived. Remember, he said that to Abraham? He said, please send Lazarus to warn my 5 brothers, because lest they come to this awful place. Because he knew they were coming. So they were gathered to their people. So that's what happens. People go where their people are. Now, sometimes a Christian has no family members whatsoever to go to. Doesn't matter. Once you're a Christian, you're part of a large family, the largest family on earth, which is the family of God, the church. So you are gathered together with people who you know from this life that have gone on to paradise. And I would say that these people live in paradise roughly in the same communities that they lived on earth. That's my thinking. Because you're gathered to your people. Not the people, the dead people, but to your people. And why wouldn't you? Come on. Why wouldn't you do that? Like, you want to see who's on the other side, you want to see how they did, and talk about all the troubles you had in life that you before you got there. So everybody goes to Haran. But now, look at verse 4 of chapter 12. So Abram went forth as the Lord had spoken to him. So he must have spoken to him right there at Haran about leaving the father's house, or maybe simply reiterated it. We know that he spoke in Ur, the Chaldees, before he went to Haran, but now he must, I think, speaking it again. So Abram went forth as the Lord had spoken to him, and Lot went with him. Now Abram was 75 years old when he departed from Haran. And I'll tell you, this long-standing mystery that I've had about the Bible, I didn't understand verse 4. If Abram was told in the order of the Chaldees to leave his kindred and all that, go to Canaan, why is he leaving Haran to go there? But then I didn't realize that Terah was the main guy. He was the main person, the convert. Now, that does raise the question, how about Nahor? Did he get converted, the brother? Yes, he did. Must have. Because, I hope I remember what chapter this is in, but it's in Genesis, I think, 24. Remember when Abraham told his servant to go get a daughter, a wife for his son? He told him where to go. He told him to go back to this area, to Haran, right? And when he gets there, it was called the city of Nahor. Now you know what that name is. He must have gone. Maybe he didn't go right away because he's not mentioned in 11. It was Terah took his one son, Abraham, who had the vision, and his nephew, his grandson, and Sarah. That was it. It was not mentioned. But the city of Nahor he goes to. I thought that was great. It's that little detail that kind of gives away the family situation. I mean, I've been reading the Bible for about 50 years. I didn't notice until 50 years ago gone by. So don't feel bad if you miss details out, because something has to pique your attention to go chasing it down. I'm telling you, that's how it is with me anyway. It has to pique your attention first, because otherwise you're not going to bother looking around. But so now I got to tell you something about this whole family at this point. First of all, what kind of spiritual people were they when they lived in Ur? We have some help with that information, with that question. Go to the book of Joshua, which is the 6th book in the Bible. Go after, Deuteronomy and all that. Go to Judges 24, the last chapter there. Okay. I'm sorry, Joshua. I said sorry. Joshua 24 and verse. We just start with verse 1 there. Might as well. Verse 1 there. Okay. Then Joshua. This is his farewell address. So this is his departing statement. Okay. Joshua gathered all the tribes of Israel. Are you everybody there? Let me get some water. Okay, Joshua 24:1. Then Joshua gathered all the tribes of Israel to Shechem. Shechem was the first place that Abraham stopped at. Just to let you know. That comes up. And called for the elders of Israel and all their heads and judges and their officers, and they presented themselves before God. And Joshua said to all the people, "Thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, from ancient times your fathers lived beyond the river that's Euphrates, namely Terah, the father of Abraham and the father of Nahor, and they served other gods." So Abraham, Terah, here's named here that the father of Nahor and Abraham, they worshipped other gods. So they were idol worshippers. So God appeared to an idol worshiper to tell him to leave and go to Canaan. So Abraham was a sinner, like everybody else. That's kind of helpful because Abraham is so honored, so venerated by the Jews especially. They can't think anything ill of him, but look how he starts out for the first 70 years of his life. Anyway, so let's go back to, where were we? Genesis 12. All right, so they were idol worshippers. I want to tell you something else about Nahor, okay, and Abraham. Get this. You might find this remarkable. I do. It's a remarkable detail. We have Abraham, Nahor, and Ishmael. The common thing about those three men, Abraham ended up with 12 great-grandsons, right? 12. Nahor has 12 sons, but from two women. Milcah, his wife has 8. The last son born to Milcah, which is his wife, was Bethuel. He is Leah and Rachel's father. That's the father. Hold on. No, I'm sorry. That's the grandfather. He's the father of Rebecca, Isaac's wife. It's all in the family. I mean, everybody's it's all tight. But they all live up in Haran, where they stopped. So basically, they're a thriving area up there. I mean, they are a powerful kind of influence because, so Abraham has 12 sons. His concubine had the other 4. So he has 12 altogether, 12 sons. Now, Abraham finds that out in chapter 22, after he sacrifices Isaac. In a figure. But the other person that had 12 sons is Ishmael. So Abraham's own son has 12 sons. His grandson has 12 sons. Nahor has 12 sons. I think it's just interesting that this nice little detail. And they produced 3 barren women, which is odd. But Sarah was barren. He came from Terah. She came from Terah. Rebecca came from Nahor's. He was Nahor's granddaughter. And then Rachel was barren, coming from Nahor's granddaughter, Bethuel's granddaughter. I think I got all those names right. 3 barren women. And to me, it's an oddity that you have that many barren women in one little kind of community. But they were meant to be barren so that God could do a miracle and produce sons, proving that he's the God of Israel, proving that the God of Israel is the true God. Now, let's continue with verse 5 here and 12. Okay, I think I got all my little points I want to make about these people so far. So if you get your map there, we might be able to get to some of this here. 5, Abram passed through the land as far as the site of Shechem. So if you go down, go to your map there, your first page there, and see how he leaves Haran and goes a little bit west. Then starts heading south down to Levant. He goes past Damascus, where that dotted line starts, right? That's in Syria. Do you know that Damascus is the oldest city in the world? I read that somewhere. See where he goes to Shechem? He stops there. So he's about 60 miles north of Jerusalem at this point. Okay, he stops at Shechem. To the oak of Moreh. Now the Canaanite, you know what, did I do 5? Let me go back to 5, sorry. I went from 4 to 6. So he was 75 years old when he departed from Haran, in verse 4 there. Now we know why. And Abram took Sarai his wife, and Lot his nephew, and all their possessions, which they had accumulated, and the persons which they had acquired in Haran. Now I'll stop there for a second, because I want to tell you something about Abraham by now. You remember when the kings invaded Canaan and took captive the people of Sodom along with Lot? And Abraham went and rescued them? Well, he was able to muster a 318-man army from his own people. If they're all married, which practically they are, that's like and with some children, that's like 1,000 people he's leading around. This guy, he's a small nation walking around. You think of Abraham and Sarah as being like by themselves? They're a powerful kind of little unit. Why? It says the Canaanite was in the land. That means they'd be hostile. They're not about to attack 1,000 strong traveling nomads. They're just not going to do it. Why would they? Abraham's not doing anything to them. He's got flocks and herds coming, all these sheep and camels and oxen, all that sort of thing. He's like a potentate by now. Remember, all the people that they acquired in Haran, because why would they acquire them? That brings up another thing. This again is an inference. When he's there for 5 years in Haran, what do you think he's talking about all the time? The vision that he got from God to go to Canaan, to become a great nation. Well, people, they're gravitating toward this man. He's evangelizing those people. He's getting them in on the gospel early. Come with me to Canaan. And in reality, from what it says in the Galatians, you are a son of Abraham if you believe like he did. And you will leave and go with Abraham into the land of Canaan one day, the promised land, it should be called, to sit at table with him. And when he takes possession of the land he's been promised. You want to think about it? The whole Bible, you could say, it was almost like this. The whole Bible is basically starting here about the blessing. And it's all about Abraham finally getting to take his possession. After all this time. Everything forward from here is all about that. Because he doesn't have any ownership in the place while he's living. The Bible makes a point about that. He did not have any ownership. But he will when he leaves Haran, the spiritual Haran, to be resurrected. And then he's sitting in a brand new body, uncorruptible, powerful, glorified like Jesus' own. And they're sitting at a table, like this table here. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Abraham, his son, his grandson, all sitting there, who all got told the same thing by God, that they would be in them, and their seed, they would be blessed, and that there would be a blessing. So if we think about it, we're all going to end up, at table with Abraham. To fulfill these verses here, in you, all the families of the earth shall be blessed, which means the curse was death, the blessing is coming back to life. And quite frankly, to me, that makes a nice little package for understanding the Bible from a very interesting perspective, going back to our Father of faith. He's called our Father. It says, if you believe like he did, you're his son. If you live like he did, you're his son. And he will acknowledge you as, son. Remember, he'll call you son, because you're of his seed. You're of his spiritual seed. Remember, as the stars of the sky, as the dust of the ground, they shall come from the east, from the west, from the north, from the south, to sit at table with Abraham in the kingdom of God. Now he's walking this whole place with this little army he's got, not owning an inch of what he steps his foot on. And he dies without inheriting it. But he's up in Haran, waiting to leave again, to come back and resurrect the body and have a seat at the table. And Jesus said, I will not drink of the fruit of the vine until I drink it anew with you in the kingdom of God. And that's the table we were talking about. And that's all I have for today. And we're going to go to our Lord's Supper time, okay?